Hi, this is Two Nerds, One Pod, the podcast where we talk about stuff that matters to us and literally no one else on the planet. My name is Scott,
I'm Jake,
I'm
and
Joe.
and with us is shit, you did it.
okay, let's start with having I'll just say that we have a special
You gonna introduce me? All right.
yeah. So we have a special guest with us today.
Hi.
Okay, good stuff. Who's this person who just okay, we have a special guest today named Joe. Hi Joe.
Hi.
So
How's it going?
All right. How you doing?
So we know Joe from the internet. We used to play a game together, a very interesting game called EVE Online, which I think no one on the face of the planet plays anymore, but we used to play that quite a lot. So
I was gonna say
Play
don't
is-
name it by name, but you already
I would
did
say
it.
play is a strong word. Participated in it. It
yeah,
existed around me.
It
isn't
happened to us, yeah.
I looked at it a lot and spun a spaceship around in a circle.
yeah. There's a lot of idling and spreadsheets involved with that game. That's for sure. So for today's podcast, we were thinking about a theme that we could all relate to, which is getting older. So I have a question for you, gentlemen, which is recently, have you had a thought where you realized, damn, I'm getting old? Has anything happened to you? Any kind of situation?
Joe, you can take it.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to think of something. Off the top of my head, not anything recently. I think I've been thinking just a lot about like age and mortality recently. And just like I've been thinking a lot like, damn, my dad's getting old.
How old is he?
All that. Well, I mean, comparatively, he's not that old. I just thinking about that a lot. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm particularly old yet, but I'm definitely, you starting to feel it.
I mean, I would say for me, it's different only just because I have a kid, I think, and I can see him getting older, and then I don't know, I like watch him age, and I wouldn't say it makes me feel older, it just makes me see the passage of time differently.
Right, because you see a human being growing up before your eyes, right?
Yeah, and I would say too, to Joe's point too, is like it doesn't feel like, I don't know, when I see my parents age too, they're like my grandmother especially, like getting frail, right? It's very clear. I don't know, it's sort of hard to ignore where I will be,
Yeah,
right?
that's I think the big thing is like you kind of see that's gonna be me,
Yeah.
and like, am I ready for that? What am I gonna do?
Yeah. One day I think you just hit the point and you say, fuck, I'm old as shit and everything hurts, you know?
I spring back from injuries a lot slower. I fell down in the garden last Friday or something. If I was younger, it wouldn't have hurt that bad and I could have continued on. But like, I hurt myself enough that I was like, all right, that's it for me for right now.
What were you doing in the garden?
I was picking up sticks or something because it was windy and my foot got caught on something and I took a tumble. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. It was just like, I'm old, I guess. I just can't spring back.
No, I feel that too. Or just like, I don't know. I think, well, when I was younger, I'm pretty sure I was just straight up impervious to injury. The simplest things now, yeah, like you'll feel it, be like, oh, okay, I'm good for now. Whereas like, yeah,
Yeah.
you could like run into a wall and be like, all right, let's keep going, guys, let's go. More walls, more walls.
Yeah, that definitely changes. And I think just to put it in perspective, I don't think we think that we're old right now or anything, but I think we can compare it to when we were younger and say definitely a difference as far as resilience is for injuries, for example, or how you view the world even, right?
So do you have instances where you are stopping and thinking like, I'm old, or is there something that happened?
Um, yeah, I think there's a few things. I'll talk about the first one, which is you grew up with certain celebrities in movies and they were a certain age, right? And now you see them age, and of course there's Botox and plastic surgery, but then maybe celebrities pass away that you really liked or you had seen a lot of movies with or TV shows, and you realize, I'm not going to live forever, right? If they pass away, then I'm going to pass away too at some point.
Sure.
I
Sure.
I have definitely thought about that last one. I'm just like kind of like all of my contemporary celebrity heroes are dying now, and it's like and then just realizing like man, everyone's had that moment where like because like you look at like 10, 20 years ago or like people who we've always known in just like random film or cinema, never as like they've always been dead. And now you got like this thing where like people who were like 20 or whatever when you were a kid and watching them now they're starting to die off. And I
Hmm.
definitely think about that.
Any examples for celebrities?
Oh man, so many. Just like this, I guess a ton just from like this year and stuff. I think about, I mean, this is less so to do with age, but I think about Robin Williams a lot just because of like, just like the human mind and the fragility of it. I sometimes feel like there's a lot of parallels there with me, and then that makes me think about that stuff.
Certainly, yeah. Especially since, of course, he's playing the role of being the comedian, right? All the time.
Right.
Or okay, actually no, that's an even better example. Is like Norm Macdonald. Huge like celebrity hero of mine, and he died of cancer that nobody but him knew about, and
Hmm.
like that is crazy to be like to talk because I mean yeah, like Robin Williams always played the celebrity and how to hid the depression. This guy hid just cancer for like a decade and a half. Nobody had any idea.
Yeah, he never
Hmm.
mentioned anything about that.
Not once.
What type of cancer
One,
did he have? I don't remember.
I honestly don't remember either. I want to say it was lung cancer
Yeah, that's
because he had
something that
so
you know that's not gonna go
ton.
well, right?
Yeah, it's fun. He did mention it one time. Well, not as himself. One time he hinted that there might be something wrong with me, but he did this whole bit about cancer and how like he would never like wouldn't tell anyone about it because he hates the idea it's a weakness and like because how everyone always talks about it as like oh he beat cancer or like he lost to cancer like this battle idea. And he had this like to him the idea was like if you die technically you didn't lose it's a tie because the cancer died too like
Mm.
Oh, I think I remember the bit that you're
and like
talking about. Yeah.
yeah and he also like talked about how like everyone's perspective of you shifts and now you're like this like weird frail victim and he never wanted that to happen to him or have like any of that kind of pity which now we know with hindsight is like he was really talking about that like that was about him and his
Yeah.
reason like now we know why that's the reason he hit it because he never wanted people to look at him like oh that poor guy he's gonna beat this.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I totally respect that he felt that way because he didn't really talk much about himself. He always was just telling jokes, right?
Yeah, and I always that's I kind of think I would admired about him is like all that selflessness, and he never cared about being a celebrity or people knowing like who I am, just telling funny jokes and being good at his job.
Yeah, he had a bunch of interviews that I saw where he would just make, I think it was on the Conan O'Brien show, where there was a really shitty movie that someone made and he just made fun of the co-star of that movie the whole time. And
Yeah, yeah, and they kept bringing him back. It worked out. Just
yeah.
pure honesty.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that happened kind of to Chadwick Boseman too, right? Of he hid his cancer. Obviously, a much different sort of story, but I think if I remember correctly, he had it. He potentially had it while he was filming,
I didn't realize that. Okay. Yeah.
or all of his publicity and stuff. He was potentially dealing with it all during that time.
Yeah, it's like I think about stuff like that. Like you think when they hide it like that, like
Yeah.
how did they get away with it too? That must have been like extremely distressing to them. And you think of things like someone just brings it up in random conversation, and you gotta like be emotionless.
Yeah, not break down on the spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would think too, just from a self perspective of like, if I had cancer and I was trying to hide it, I think it potentially I just wear my heart in my sleeve too much to like keep it from people because I would think that
Yeah, like how would you be
people
able
would
to do it?
care. Yeah,
But
I don't.
it's that idea because a huge stigma, yeah, like where you just become a victim, and
Right.
now like everyone pities you, and that's the last thing you.
Yeah, you don't want to be sad.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I was gonna say another perspective or another thing that I realized where I'm getting a bit older is my perspective of the world has changed a little bit. That's kind of a long process that often will change throughout your life, right? But how I viewed the world today is much different than I viewed it when I was born. So I was born in '86, so I guess that's 35 years ago. Um, yeah, it's changed over time.
I've definitely been more radicalized as I've grown. I think that
Yeah.
just comes with like experience and just sort of like, learning how the world works. Because you're sold just rainbows and butterflies as a child, and then you get to slowly experience like all that just crack away.
I think we're looking at the word optimism that gets less with time, right?
Yeah. I think that starts to go out the like just time just makes us all bitter.
What about you, Jacob?
I don't know. It's hard to ignore the issues at large. I think being ignorant, ignorance is bliss, right? As stupid as that saying is, it's like if I was dumber, I would be much more happy. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a level of reading the news. The more I read the news, the less likely I am to have a good day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the more you learn, the just like sadder or angrier you become.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I think it's a secret to retain your optimism is just avoid news sites, especially biased news sites, which I won't mention any just because there's biased news sites on both ends of the spectrum, right?
There's bias in all news, right? Is you need a perspective to start from, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
for you, just like I guess inherently there has to be some bias because you're reporting it.
That's true.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's from the perspective of the country you're in, but I just comparing something like I don't know, the North Korean news network that's not going to be really unbiased, regardless of what
Yeah.
they're talking about.
sure.
It's going to be biased in one very specific direction. I've definitely noticed that like that's a huge culture shock if you leave the US and watch any European news and you're like, wow, this is just information. what an idea. This isn't just wild screaming and speculation and two people yelling at each other and calling them idiots. I mean, there's definitely that. There's absolutely that in European news, but like most of the general stuff I heard was just like, here's some things that happened. Wow. And then you come here and it's like, I think something might have happened over there, and let me tell you how I feel about it. I don't know what happened yet, but I got a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, totally. That we're waiting for more information bit, and there's two anchors just sitting there talking about some event that they have very little information that happens so often in the U.S. I don't really understand why.
Yeah, and then like 20 minutes in, they've invented an entire other scenario and then forgotten what they were reporting.
Yeah. Well, I think like I don't know, we're kind of on a kill on news, but I think the thing that drives me crazy is back and like it's hard to describe, but it's sort of like a juxtaposition in their news stories back to back. So when they have like I was watching the news recently where they were like in Africa talking about South Sudan and how people were going hungry there. And then they just like turned and we're like, oh yeah, and someone got shot in the face today. Like, like
From one topic to another, or what do you mean?
yeah, like when they shift to topics.
So it was local news or national news after that.
Right, well, right. So it's I mean it's always this. It's the same with local news too, right? It's like they'll have a horrible thing and then like a non sequitur to like something else that isn't like remotely related.
And the
Or like here's
severity might,
traffic, and you're
yeah,
like,
yeah, okay, yeah, different severity, different topic completely, and it's a very abrupt change of topics. You mean, right?
yeah,
Everybody's starving in Africa, and you can get a donut today at Dunkin' Donuts for 5 cents. Like,
yeah.
it's blowout season. By the way, 14 people starved in Detroit tonight.
There's a funny parody of, I don't know if you guys read BBC News at all or watch the videos at all from them. I'm not sure. I'll just ask that in the
I don't.
No.
No, okay. So they have a particular format for their stories, and it's always reporters standing on the street level, and people are walking by them, and then the camera is starting from far away and zooms in on them. And there's a parody video of it, and I think it's by The Onion, but it's so accurate and so dead on. Maybe if you guys are bored, you could check that out later. But if you guys don't know the format of BBC, then it's not so important. But yeah, it's very formula. I think news in general is very formulaic and doesn't really change.
Oh, absolutely. I think they figured out like it just this is what drives in viewers, and you do it in this order.
Yeah, whatever keeps the ratings up. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you just shift your little bias into the middle of that formula.
Yeah, definitely. So going back to things that are making us feel older, is there an experience that you guys can recall recently that was very formulative in your life, like a very big event where that shaped you in the past couple of years?
Recent shaping?
I mean, it could be, let's say, within the last 10 years. Yeah, let's give it a big window.
Okay, I would say I'm pretty pretty forged at this point.
I mean, it's hard to ignore COVID. I would say in the most recent news that probably has shaped. Weirdly, I think that has shown me who, I don't know. I'm thinking of what I'm comparing in my head is like the sort of mask off racism and horrible shit that people who liked Donald Trump and supported him, and the mask off, I guess, of like anti-vaxxers and, Trump supporters post-COVID. It's just very, I don't know. I think that has sort of shaped my recent view of the public in general rather than me. And I think that's made me maybe a more cautious person, a more sheltered person.
Yeah, I guess if you were to say like in the sense of formative, yeah, like of like understanding society as a whole, that's like, I mean, pretty much I had that moment in the army. Like that's pretty much what the military taught me. It was
Mm.
like, no, man, America's not a nice place. And you might think that like, no, the people are great, and as you find out, like, no, like as a whole, there's a lot of problems. But in that,
Yeah.
as a person, that experience, weirdly enough, was also good for me because the the indoctrination, helped in a sense in that like because there's the basic things there of just like I hate these words, but like discipline and stuff where like and just or I guess perspective is the biggest thing for me in that like you learn a lot about what like you're capable of and what it really truly means to do the right thing and not to be perceived as being right, but like actually doing the right thing and like always being the right person and just not how to
Mm-hmm.
persevere through things like that. I would say like
Mm.
Which branch were you in, Joe? I
the
didn't
army.
realize that you were in the military.
I was an infantryman for
Okay, yeah.
8 years. I like those years were my like most formative years because that was I guess really like the first time because I joined when I was 17, so like the first time as now a young adult like really leaving the nest and going into society and in like the most horrible way possible.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, college is like a comparatively culture shock wise, I would say college is
It's the
like
same thing,
nothing
yeah.
I mean, I would it
Not, but those are your formative years, and it's the first time you truly step out
sure.
of like the nest, and
Yeah.
you really like this is the world. Like, because they in high school they always talk about the real world, and like, while that's definitely a fake concept, like that's kind of the first, like that's sort of what they're talking about. Like when you leave, like now you don't have all this authority and all these figures helping you and guiding you. Like you're out here now, and
Hmm.
this is on you.
Yeah, no one's really looking out for you anymore.
I was going to say, I'm sure you've met lots of different people who have lots of different ways of thinking when you're in the army, and I'm sure you've met lots of different people from different backgrounds as well,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I think, and to me, I think that's necessary. I think, like, if we talk about, like, we go back to society, I think that's basically 80% of the problem with Americans is they've never left America, and they've never left their town. They've never
Mm.
met other people and heard other opinions and seen other cultures, and, like, they've never taken in other perspectives other than their own. Like, I think,
Mm.
like, that I think solves most of people. That's really where, like, if I think being like formation comes from. It's just you have to go out there and experience things and meet other people and see how the world is lived, not where you are. And
Yeah, 100% agree with you
that's
on
kind
that.
of like where I
Definitely.
like. That's what I'm thankful from the army for is they gave me that opportunity and they showed me all these things, and that's like, that's where I really like formed as a person. Sorry, is it like I said, like I'm basically forged now. Is like it's so ingrained in that like they made me who I am, and that's who I am, and I will never like deviate and become like a worse person because that's how like deep it is.
Mm.
That sounds like that was really formative then. I mean, especially you.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, like when I look back on the branch as a whole, I think a lot of people miss that, or it formed them the wrong way.
Yeah, I just hear about the rates of suicide for Afghanistan veterans. It's quite high,
Oh,
right?
quite. I mean, but obviously the rates of sexual assaults are quite high, and like hate crimes and things like that. Because, it's generally in that same vein. It's by like those people who never looked at other perspectives or ever actually went and did anything.
Yeah, I understand. I know too many people that have never left the area that they live in, and all the people they hang out with think the exact same way as they do. And I don't know. I feel like in the 1800s they had the idea of that you travel abroad, well, at least okay, the rich
Yeah,
people
right.
anyway, and that you should take a tour
Yeah,
of
you.
Europe, right? And then you would know more about the world. Maybe they should introduce that, yeah, where everyone has to at least spend a few months outside the country and realize, okay, other cultures exist and they're not all
Yeah, they're
shit.
not what like I'm fed or whatever, or like what. And like for those people who never leave, those opinions too become like extreme. It's never just like a whist or a thought. Like this is how it is. And like,
Exactly, yeah. This is the way the world
yeah,
works.
but you've never even been.
Yeah, and especially going back to what Jacob said about some of the COVID videos, I remember watching a clip of some lady that didn't have a mask on and just running up to people in a supermarket and basically saying, "Why are you wearing a mask?" And then like coughing on them and spitting on them. And I'm thinking, why? Why do
How
you
do you
do
have
that?
such vitriol? Like, yeah, what? How does this help you or anybody else in any way?
Yeah, so I think the opinion of society for me actually went down a little bit. Not to say I'm a perfect citizen or anything, but just when I think about the greater public, there are so many people that just don't take the COVID thing seriously still and are, doing stuff like that. And I think it's going to be a long haul based on that
And I
information.
think like for a lot of Americans, that's a huge shock because you're always fed this idea of the nationality and like when the times get tough, we come together. We came
Mm,
together in World War II and we came together in 9/11. And
mm.
like just like in those moments, that's mostly a lie. Like it turns
Yeah, I
out
was gonna say, yeah.
we generally fall apart very, very quickly. And like I mean, the Civil War was not a fluke. Like that's how it works. And I think this is like the pandemic was the first, like at least for this generation and maybe like the previous one, to really see that like this is how it is. Like society is not the golden like pinnacle we thought it was, and it's all just chaos, and we're all crazy apes.
Yeah, crazy.
It's funny you mention, the nation coming together on 9/11. Only I had an Indian friend in high school, and right after 9/11, he said he was scared a lot, and I was like, why? And he said that it happens a lot when they're just driving around, their neighborhood. And he said it once on the highway that he and his family had rocks thrown at their car just driving down the highway. And that was, for me, that was a moment of like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what
Because
is,
that's like the
yeah,
asterisk. Like the nation did come together against Muslims, which they didn't even know what
yeah,
that was. Just
brown
this vague
people,
idea.
yeah,
That at World War II, they came together against the Japanese, like
yeah.
their own people. Like,
Yeah, there was Japanese citizens which didn't really come together. They
yeah,
were
well,
forced
we
together in camps.
come
Yeah,
together in a camp. Like, yeah, it's just insane.
I guess they were together but just separated by themselves. All right.
it's like, uh, I don't know if it's revisionist, right, or if it's ignorance, right, or maybe both. I don't know. It's sort of sad.
I think to tie back then to the theme, there was a moment where I was questioning. I learned more and more about history as I grew up, right, and reading about certain events, and some of it was taught in school and some wasn't. But I think after 9/11 happened, I guess that was a huge formative moment in my life. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's invade Iraq. They've got these weapons of mass destruction. And then I think maybe a couple years later, I was like, wait a minute, this is totally wrong that we went to Afghanistan and Iraq and thinking maybe the US didn't really do so well in those regions. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I mean, I absolutely had
As
that
someone who was
moment.
there, yeah.
Yeah, I watched it happen in real time. Like, yeah, I mean, the 9/11, like, I was like, I think like 11, so like all of that Kool-Aid went right into me, and like, so I think when I first joined, I genuinely thought like, yeah, we're out here, we're like protecting freedom, we're doing a good thing, and then you get there and you're like, oh no, wait a minute, this is all that shit you read about in history books. and then
Hmm.
you and then you really start reading, and then it's like, oh, okay, we did this on purpose. Like, we just want money.
See, that's what it boils
I,
down to is they wanted money, is
yeah,
what you
and I
think.
like that's kind of like, to me, there's that weird. So like, I feel lucky in that I looked at that and I went, this is wrong. We're doing something bad. But then a lot of people see that and they go, oh yeah, Monster Energy oil. Look at this. Is it like that's?
I was just gonna say, I think the thing that we were in a different situation, but we would have debates about it in college, with friends, and they'd say, it's a good thing we were there though, because we really helped out, I don't know, the people, the region, whatever they say, and it's like, no, like,
Not at all. And this is really poignant because, a couple months ago, then there was the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. And so that kind of closed the loop of, 20 years where really nothing was accomplished for good in that sense. And more infrastructure was, I don't know, built,
It
destroyed,
was definitely
resources were
destroyed,
taken,
yeah.
destroyed.
We
Yeah,
didn't
that's what was
build
my
anything.
thinking as well.
I mean, we built the
Yeah, and
Raytheon stock ticker, I think, is what the end game was. Like Lockheed got a lot of money.
that's what it's all about. Yeah, and I remember reading an article about, I think it was in Iraq or Afghanistan, where there was a shipment of gold bullion that was supposed to go over there, and it was worth 1 trillion.
Just
It just
disappeared. Who knows where it
disappeared, something
go?
like.
I think that happened
Yeah,
with
Only there were
yeah,
some
just
cash too, right?
soldiers around to make sure that got where it was supposed to go. Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
maybe it was cash then. Yeah, I just remember reading the article. It's crazy, 1 trillion just gone. Yeah, that's something that really affected my worldview of the U.S. So that happened a few years later, so probably like in 2000, let's say, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, something like that.
I guess that's kind
So
of like
when I viewed it,
to go back to just the whole formative thing is like it's interesting because that pretty much is everyone's experience. I think like around our generation, like just 9/11 and like the whole war on terrorism is like part of everyone's formative experience. Like it's crazy just how much of a like cultural thing that ended up being, and, and how much of a waste of time it was.
yeah, really pointless in that regard, especially for lives of people. You didn't have any injuries, I don't think, right?
No, fortunately.
Yeah, some people, I mean, perished there, obviously, U.S. servicemen, and I think I'm not trying to criticize the military at
Trust
all.
me,
Yeah,
I do a lot.
it's not my idea.
I'm absolutely
But
sure.
I just think they incentivize people to join when they're really young, and offer them money or the GI Bill,
Yeah.
right? And I don't know if those people realize that okay, you could die,
It's
if you're deployed.
someone once put it as it's the only jobs program in America. It's the only federal jobs program that exists. And like its purpose, like it's just they definitely like it's funny because you say it's not a conscription force, everyone volunteers to join, but like you create
Well,
the conditions that make
yeah,
them have to join.
exactly.
I think a lot of people want to go to college, but they can't, and you did that, and now here you are, free college. Whoa.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they make it like that from the conditions, but it's not true that it's not elective, right? You of course you sign up if you want to, but if the shit hits the fan and metaphorical terms, then the Selective Service Act or
Yeah, it
whatever it's
still
called,
does
right?
technically
Yeah.
exist. They've sworn that after Vietnam they wouldn't do it, but it is still a law. So they could, yeah.
So for any international listeners, everyone in the U.S. that's a guy from age 18 to 26, you have to sign up with your social security number for a program where, in theory, if a war happens, then they can call up anyone during that age range, and you can't get to college or apply to college if you don't have proof that you registered for this service thing.
I remember I thought I didn't have to fill it out because I joined, and I did. I had to mail that thing in anyway. I was like, no,
Oh,
but
really?
yeah. Like I had to sign up for selective service, even though I selected service. Yeah.
That's bureaucracy for you. Yeah.
It turns out that conscription does not guarantee citizenship here.
Yeah, I think you have to even tell them if you move. They have to have your current address at all times. So I guess for you, it's like, okay, I'm deployed in
Yeah, you know where
Afghanistan.
I live. You put me here.
Yeah. I was gonna ask, I'd do a bit of a topic change and ask, is there any movie that you saw as a kid, maybe, and then you've seen it now and you have a different interpretation of that movie? It's kind of an open-ended question.
I think most movies and music I listened to from the 70s and 80s, it was a very rapey generation, is what I'll say. I have a lot of thoughts about the things that the people do in those films now.
Well, and
Which
the
when you're
music too
or
is like
even like even a
Jesus.
teenager, you're just like, "Yeah, it's America, baby," and now it's like, "Whoa, you can't be doing that."
Yeah, I think the message in the 80s in the US was because it's kind of a repressed culture in terms of what you can show on TV with nudity and stuff like that. Music was a bit more free, right? So there are a lot of undertones there that were kind of
Yeah,
rapey, for
and I
sure.
guess like because to them there was the idea of like she has to play that way. We're puritanical, but yeah, she wants it. Just keep going. Just
Well, I think
and
Yeah, and a lot of
yeah, I think you're exactly right in that it's it's about the repression of sexual desires, right? I think it's interesting to see people complaining about music today that's like explicitly sexual, whereas I think previously it was because of the repression, it was they had to hid it behind these horrible metaphors, and once you unpack those, they are very rapey and like racist and just horrible shit.
that's right.
Stalkery, like
Every step you take, baby.
it's exactly the song I was thinking of.
Well, it's like
yeah, but I think that's I totally agree with the lyrics, but I think that happened to Sting where someone was stalking him. I think that's why he wrote it, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong. Maybe he just was really creepy.
yeah. I mean, there's no evidence to say he
um,
is listening to the lyrics.
Yeah, I was gonna say the song. I think everyone knows it. I don't know the name of it, but it's like come on, just do it. If you want to come do it, that's pretty obvious, I guess. Yeah, but as a kid, you're thinking, okay, let's do it. But then, obviously, as an adult, it's a different meaning, where it being something else,
Yeah.
right? I was gonna say there's a movie that I saw as a kid that I loved it and thought it was really cool, and then I saw a still from the movie. I'm gonna see if you guys know this movie because it's a terrible movie. It's called Blank Check
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
90s, where a kid gets a yeah. So there's a scene in there where there's an older lady, and he goes out on the date with the older lady, and the kid's like I don't know 11, 8, something like that, and then they both kiss. And so I saw a still from that and was thinking, oh man, that's so wrong that like a middle-aged woman is kissing a like a 13-year-old. I
But
don't
when you're
know.
13, you're like, oh, the hot
That's
lady would kiss me. and then,
exactly,
and you're
yeah.
like,
It's because you identified
you're like,
with
wait, they
that.
like produced this. Somebody wrote that down that they should do that. And that's like,
Yeah, and especially since the film board in the U.S., the MPAA, I'm very surprised that that got by them because obviously it's just like supposed to be a date and it's pretending like he's an adult more or
yeah.
less, and then they're kissing. But I don't know. The literal still from the movie is yeah, a middle-aged woman kissing a 13-year-old. So
Hmm.
I don't know.
I would say the biggest thing that I agree there are moments of that too, but I think the thing that I've noticed most is I I sympathize with the parents in the movies more now. Where like typically it was always just like, oh yeah, the parents are crazy or whatever, and they're just assholes. But it makes more sense. Like I'm just thinking of like, have you seen the Zach Morris is a psychopath or something like that? It's a guy that
I
re-examines Saved by
haven't
the
no.
Bell, and basically his thesis is that Zach Morris is completely insane because he's like a sociopath. He's an asshole, and um, yeah, it's pretty dead on, right? Is with a little re-examination of what might have been seen as cool or um, I don't know, sort of thought of as being normal even is today like something is wrong here.
Boys will be boys.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it was even as a kid, the actors in all the shows that were doing high school, they were in their late 20s portraying, I don't know, 16 year
Yeah.
olds. That was always really weird to me.
Hmm.
That still hasn't changed. So that's something that's been consistent throughout our lifetimes, I think.
And then you're that age and you're like, I don't look anything like that dude. He's like 3 times the size of me.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he's 32.
Yeah. I was going to go a different direction and say that when I used to see kids freaking out in a grocery store or something when I was younger, I would always be like, oh man, the parents are such assholes. They're yelling at them saying that they're not going to be able to do this or that tonight. And now when I see that, I think, oh, that fucking kid, that poor parent. I can't believe what they're going through. So I side with them automatically then.
Yeah.
Because I think I get the whole picture of course I don't have kids, yeah, but I get more of the picture of they worked, they're going to the grocery store to get groceries and the kid acts up, and then, yeah. So I kind of switch sides on that.
And like you realize now that like I was a kid and man, like kids are just unreasonable. Like they don't listen,
yeah.
they don't care. Like it's
No.
not like I could be like, excuse me, please calm down and let's just finish this trip. Like they don't care.
No.
And that's frustrating.
Oh, yeah, 100%. They want what they want in that moment, and it's understandable. They're kids, right? But sometimes you can't give them ice cream in the middle of the desert. Does your son do anything like that, Jacob? Just out of curiosity.
No, he's weirdly reason. He's actually pretty reasonable. He was never really a screamer. He more pouted and then cried about it. So that, that's to our benefit.
So he's just like his father then.
Yeah, he sulks.
Yeah, I would just walk away and like slam the door. Just don't talk to me.
Yeah, that's pretty much right. Yeah.
I think it's funny. We were playing yesterday, and you were like yelling at him for talking. And I remember, well, my dad did the same thing to me when I was a kid because we were playing like Black Hawk Down together or something. I was just like chatting to a guy, and he came in my room. He's like, "Stop fucking talking to that guy. He doesn't know who you are. He doesn't give a shit what you have to say." And at the time, I was like, "You don't know, man. Me and this guy were having a screen chat." And now I think about it, I'm like, "What, man? That guy didn't give a fuck what I had to say." I'm like 9 years old. I'm just like, just annoying these people. So I thought I related in that moment. I was like, I remember being that kid. It's like, shut up. Why are you just talking? Nobody cares. Yeah. Yes, they do. They don't care.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, the tendency, of course, some adults are completely different, but the tendency to overshare goes a lot dramatically when you're an adult, right? You don't want to tell, at least I'm that way, where I don't want to tell people more than what is the minimum, more or less, and if they're curious, they can ask. So it's like these kind of socially refined skills.
Yeah, I'm definitely that way now. I'll say shit.
Yeah, and there's the opposite in the spectrum. I was in college, and all the older students always wanted to tell their life experiences, and I always was just thinking, no one cares.
Yes.
So very similar to what you said earlier. But I think most people won't share as much when they're an adult. They're not going to tell the stranger how their day went, something like that.
Well, that's like people ask, "How are you doing?" I know it's a nicety, but like you don't actually care.
Yeah.
People don't like it when I say because I guess that it's supposed to be like, great, excellent. We're like, and they're like, what's like, yeah, I'm just doing. Like, I'm existing in this moment. It's not bad. I just am. Like, how do I do it?
I'm here.
It's 2 o'clock.
Let me be.
Yeah. Not everything has to be great.
Yeah, that's something different here. So I live in Germany, for people that don't know, and here they don't ask how you're doing. They don't. If you're on the street, some random stranger won't wave at you and say hi. And when I go back to the US, it's always not a shock or anything because I'm used to it. But I think the exact same way the cashier is either asking how are you doing or did you find everything okay. And I know that they don't give two shits about how I'm doing, but they have to say it, right?
It's I have a buddy from Illinois, and I'm from the Northeast New Jersey, so like we're kind of like the same. Like if I don't personally know you, you don't look at me, you don't talk to me. But from Illinois, he's just like I remember we were out in Colorado and we go to like a gas station, and he just like goes up to a guy in line, he's like, hey, buddy, how you doing? Like, you like anything around here you like? And I was just standing like, what are you doing? What like that? so like him, he's like, I'm just talking. That's what like, we're in a new place, man. You gotta meet people. Like, you don't know that, man. Like, get away from him.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm more cautious, I guess, socially. If I don't know someone, I'm not going to try to start a conversation with them.
Yeah, I think I just up here. There's an entire culture of like everyone is against me. Like you can't trust anybody. I don't know what they're up to. Like if you come up and just start talking to me, you're conning me. It's like you're gonna stab me or you're about to like try and sell me a radio. It's like just the idea. Like you don't just interact with people. Like there's
There's some truth in that, though.
I mean,
Yeah.
because that's what it has to be born from. Because there's an absolute truth of that, but it's like it's just pure cynicism now. Like there's no such thing as a neutral or good interaction. Like if this person wants to talk to me, they're taking my stuff. They're gonna do me harm.
100%. Yeah. It's funny you mention that because where I come from, Raleigh, North Carolina, there's been a trend recently where multi-level marketers will just go to the grocery store and they will talk to every single person they see, and they do it really slow where they say, "Hey, I like that T-shirt you're wearing," and they start with that, and then they try to build a relationship, and then they go to really great lengths just to try to get you on the shitty pyramid
It's
scheme.
like
And
fair to
I
me.
totally
If you
agree with
came
you.
up to me and went, "Hey, I like the T-shirt you're wearing," he's just gonna steal my T-shirt. That's like my immediate thought. I was like, "Oh shit, he's gonna steal my T-shirt." Oh, it's a nice car. Whoa, shit! I gotta go.
He's gonna steal my car. Yeah.
You just steal my thing.
Gotta get out of there.
Collateral. Hey, buddy, is that my briefcase? Like that's. Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's also a thing. It's probably trust as an adult. Maybe it's harder to trust. I don't know.
I
if
think.
that is
I
true
think
for you guys as
definitely.
well.
That's just like with the time. Just like makes you bitter. Like everyone's out to get me. But as a kid, like it's
Yeah.
just playtime, fun time all the time.
Yeah, as soon as money gets involved or feelings or something like that, then it gets more serious, right? Well, gentlemen, we have 45 minutes of audio. Is there any last words you'd like to say about the topic getting older?
I hate it. I wish it could end.
Fair enough, yeah. What about you, Jacob?
I don't know. I would say, yeah, it kind of sucks, but I think it's worthwhile to, I don't know, become, I don't know, who I am now. I don't know. I sort of fall under the guise of like who we are evolves over time, and we sort of develop into, I don't know, a different form or person as we get older. And so I guess in that way, I'm thankful for all of the things that have led up to me being who I am. I don't know. I guess
Yeah,
in a
probably
weird
wrote a
way,
song.
The
it's
good
sort
and the
of-
bad?
It's called "Man Who Sold the World."
Both the good and the bad?
Well, just
or-
like it's all about him meeting his past self and being like, I remember being you, and like I liked it at the time, but now I kind of like me now. You
yeah.
know that
Yeah.
later on I'm going to meet me from the future. He's going to say hi to me, and I'm going to be like, I remember being that, but now I'm this.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's
I
not
was-
the worst, but it's not the
Nah.
best.
It sucks that it has to end. Like I wouldn't mind aging forever, but like at some point you don't anymore, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
There's two.
Yeah.
It's unfathomable that I could ever experience all the things, and that kind of sucks when I think about it.
Mm.
Yeah, you gotta choose wisely, right?
And I'm really bad at that.
Like, pizza and beer, or going to, I don't know, to see some cool nature thing by, I don't know. For me, probably the former.
If we lived
but
in a better world, they'd let me
yeah.
have the pizza and beer in the nature.
That's fair enough, yeah. I was gonna say, I hope that I learn to age gracefully because I see a lot of old people who are really cool and also old people that are not so cool. So I hope I fall more into the cool category.
I don't want to just be in the chair. It's like I need to be on like the motorcycle. That's how it's gotta go.
Yeah, 100%.
Thanks everybody for listening. This is our episode about being old and getting older. We're so sorry you had to listen to that.
Very sorry. And thanks for being with us today,
Yeah,
Joe.
thanks, Joe.
Thank you for having me.